Oh my god, I'm gonna kill her. All right, so let's try that again. Hi. Okay, so I didn't realize I had muted everybody in my house out. So this is Patricia Mooneyham, the Passion Professor, and we are going to get started on this evening's class one of the Success Principles. And I just want to make sure that everyone can see the PowerPoint presentation that's being displayed. Currently, you should see it says the Success Principles for your online training, hosted by yours truly, Patricia Mooneyham, the Passion Professor. So can everyone see that? If you just want to give a shout in the box that says you can see it, that would be great. Okay. I'm hoping that means I'm not seeing anybody doesn't can see the you should see up in just a few things about this webinar platform. There is a chat option. It should be up to the right. It uses Google Plus for this. So you'll see like a dialog box. You can click on that. That'll give you your chat option. And we're going to get started. I'm hoping that everybody can see the PowerPoint. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about me and why I'm here and why I'm doing this. I am known as Passion Professor because I'm very passionate about helping women. I specialize in sexual health and wellness, but when people ask me what I do, what the first thing that always comes to mind is my mission is to help women be happier. So this year, as I was setting my goals and kind of deciding what I want to do in the upcoming year and kind of working toward my list of things I'd like to do, one of them was that, help women be happier. And I really thought to myself, how am I doing that? What am I doing to kind of help women and empower women? I do it when I do the classes for sexual education. I do it when I write and when I blog. But was there something specifically that I was doing? And lo and behold, the universe provided. At the same time, I have long been a fan of Jack Canfield, and one of my long-term goals is to attend. He does this very exclusive retreat in Italy, and that's on my list to attend that. It's only like him and 30 people over in Tuscany. So, and out of the book came this opportunity to teach a class in the Success Principles, kind of a mini class, 6 sessions. And I thought, oh, what better way to do this than to reach people online and perhaps be able to reach people that I wouldn't be able to do. I would also do this for church groups or women's groups, school groups. So the opportunity is there. If you know somebody that's looking for something like this, keep me in mind, because I would be more than happy to do that for them free of charge as well. So about this particular course, it is going to be 6 sessions every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be a replay available. Like I said, I picked this time. It worked well for me and for a few other people that I talked to. But we know things change and not everybody can always make that date. And I definitely want everybody to be able to access each and every class. What you will need, I did make accessible a link for a download for the book. You can purchase the book. It's a great investment. I love making notes in it and things like that. I do suggest a separate journal or notebook for this. We're going to talk about vision boarding. We're going to talk about lists. We're going to talk about goal setting. You're going to want to take some notes about some of the discussion that we do. So a separate journal would really be recommended. We also have a Facebook group that I started. If I haven't added you, it might not be because we're not friends, but I would be more than happy to. I would say within that group, if you find somebody that you want to partner up with and try some of these exercises and some of the questions that we're going to do, sometimes it's a little bit easier if you're doing these with somebody that that is going through the process with you, or maybe you have a mentor or you have a mastermind group that you can do these exercises with on your own outside of the class. The class is really going to give you the materials to kind of use these success principles in your life. So without further ado, let's get started. Class 1 is going to be about chapters 1 and 3. If you haven't read them, I would suggest going back and reading them. There's two key principles we're really going to talk about. And the first one is going to be you have to give up blaming and complaining. And the second is that you have to give up all your excuses and take the position that whatever you're experiencing in life, the results you are creating. And those are big steps for a lot of people. It's easy to say things happen for different reasons, but to say the reason is outside of our control, or as to put it bluntly, and I guess one thing I really like about Jack Canfield is he really doesn't sugarcoat a lot. So shit happens. Shit happens in everybody's life. So we spend most of our time blaming things outside of us: the weather, our boss, the traffic, the economy, our current president. You have a tendency to think that everything that's happening to you is outside of your control. But once you start taking more control back and taking responsibility for the things you're experiencing and that you're creating, the quality of the life that you're experiencing, when you're actually choosing how you respond to events rather than the events themselves, can make a huge difference. So at the bottom, you'll see this little formula: E plus R equals O. It means event plus response equals your outcome. So there's some different examples. It gets really rid of your victim mentality in life. What most people do when they don't get the outcome they want is they blame the event. When they blame the event for not having what they want, it puts all the power outside of them. So you're giving up control when you do that. There is nothing you can do about external events. What is, just is. So what you have to do is change how you respond to get the outcomes that you want. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. If you don't like 4, the 2 of the event is a given. You've got to change your response from a 2 to some other number, say 3 or 4 or 5, in order to get a different result. So the basic principle is getting yourself out of blaming and complaining and into taking responsibility. Another important concept is that people tend to complain to the wrong person, right? So we want to complain to our friends. If you're upset with Bob, you tell Joe. And if I'm upset with Joe, I tell Bob. Well, that doesn't solve anything. You need to tell Joe if it's Joe you're upset with, and you need to tell Bob if it's Bob you're upset with. The person that can do, we have a tendency not to go to the person that can actually make the decision or do something about the outcome that we don't like. The person that doesn't need to grant my request, but at least I need to communicate a request in order to get what I want. So there goes back to one of my favorite expressions to say to people is, the answer is always no until you at least ask the question. So if you're not asking the question to the right person, the answer is still going to stay no. Another important concept is taking responsibility and not being a victim in life is something called a yellow alert. Yellow alerts are things that you notice in your life that act as clues that you are happening or about to happen that aren't going to work out. Like, I hire Sarah and she says, oh yeah, I'm thinking about marrying some guy who lives in the Bahamas, and we ignore that. On another day, she says she's really falling more in love with the guy, and she hates the rainy weather in Seattle. And then all of a sudden she quits, and we're surprised and left unprepared because we weren't paying attention to the yellow alert she was giving us all along. There are lots of yellow alerts in your life, like the husband comes home with lipstick on his collar, or he's late every night, and you wonder, well, what's going on here? Well, I don't want to say anything about it because it would be too uncomfortable. Because it is inconvenient or uncomfortable, we tend to deny the yellow alerts rather than to act on them. So we almost always have clues that things are coming, and so we're not the victims. So with that in mind, we're going to do an exercise. So are we ready to do an exercise? Okay, so our first exercise is, if I were to take just 10% more responsibility in my life, I would. So let's just take a minute and think about that. And I'm going to go through an example of ways that you can do this, but just 10% more. So I'm not even taking full responsibility for everything, though that is our goal. Just 10%, just a small piece of that. So this is something, and this is a great exercise to go back and forth with just a small piece of just more responsibility for, say, whether it's chores around the house or more responsibility for getting to work on time, or just 10% more, not total, just 10% more, is a great place to start, because it's not the whole thing, it's small steps. So we've all heard the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Well, this is that same concept. I'm just going to take a small step in the right direction. Jack Canfield, when he teaches classes, or if you ever hear him speak, he's very much about action. So all the plans in the world really don't do us any good without any kind of action. And sometimes just it can be overwhelming to think of the amount we need to move in our life. So just moving that small amount can make it so much more manageable. So I'm just going to give everybody a minute to think about that. If anybody wants to share, you certainly can share in the comments, and I would read those to the group. Just 10% more responsible in my life. So now that you've had time to think a little bit about that, here are a few more things that you could add about to get rid of that whole victim mentality. And this kind of starts to break it down more, and you're going to see as we move through the rest of the class tonight, we're going to break things down as far as goals and areas of our life to apply these principles to even more. So this kind of gives you a little more. If I were just 10% more responsibility for my happiness, I would. If I were just 10% more responsible for my health and fitness, I would. If I were to take just 10% more responsibility for the quality of my relationships, I would. If I were to take just 10% more responsibility for the effectiveness at work, I would. And then here, somehow I repeated happiness. So we can see happiness is twice as important as everything else. It's another one of my things to remind people, is that we have to be responsible for our own happiness. So just being 10% more responsible will lead us to being 100% responsible for our own happiness. We all know that someone else cannot be responsible for our happiness. They can enhance it, however, they cannot be responsible. So thinking about those, and I will post those in the Facebook group as well, so that you'll have those, or you could write them down now. So are you seeing any themes? So that's what you want to do as you go through these. Are you seeing themes? So I actually have a poll over here that I want to everybody can take. I'm going to put that up there. What do you see as your biggest roadblock that's keeping you from your goals? Is it the opinion of others? Is it not being clear about what you really want? Is it a fear of failure, or is there something else? So if you could take that poll, I'd really like to see. It really kind of helps me with directing the class and what things I should emphasize and not emphasize. So this is what I would say, is take a step. So what are you going to do tonight to take a step to really make a difference in one of those areas? Obviously, I throw a few of those out there. Even if you start with the first one, taking responsibility, and then write down something that you're going to start doing right away. And the reason I say write it down is you're going to find writing it down makes all the difference in the world. There's actually a whole process. I work with women on journaling and the concept of journaling. But journaling, there's a whole concept of you have to think a thought, then you have to think about writing it, then you get the visual of writing it, and then if you add in saying it out loud as you're journaling, that adds a whole other level of how it reinforces it into your brain. So writing it down is very key. So with that being said, we're going to move on to our next exercise. And that has to do with personal responsibility. So let's get more specific about how we're doing with this. What is an area? So these are questions you're going to say, and you're going to answer to yourself, and then we're going to go back through and you're going to answer and write them down. So just really quick, you're going to think about these. What is an area of your life that is not working as well as you would like it to? How are you creating or allowing this to happen? That's a really tough question for us, right? Because we don't think we're allowing anything to happen. But when you step back and go through the process, is it through denial? Is it through not making expectations clear? Is it about communication? So take a second and think about how you are creating or allowing this to happen. What are you doing that is not working that you need to do less of? And I'm going to actually go through an example of this with you so that you can kind of get an idea and then do the exercise for yourself. What are you currently doing that is working that you could do more of? What are you not doing that you could try to see if it works? So that's that out of the box thing, right? So there's things you think you might, but you're not sure. That's fear of failure. We're afraid I'll try it and it won't work, and I'm not going to be any better off. But you can also eliminate that so you can start opening up your mind to try other possibilities. So that's a whole other way, those out-of-the-box solutions that people are so often afraid of. What will you commit to doing as a result of this exercise? By when will you do it? Jack is very, very big on timelines and writing down specific dates and giving yourself timelines to work toward. That goes back to SMART goals, if you're familiar with that concept. And write it down. Once again, there's that writing down, the reinforcement, the commitment to it. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Now's a great time if you have any questions to ask me questions about any of this. Great. So awesome. I see, Laura, you can see that. I just now noticed your response. Sorry, I was working on that poll. And please feel free to take the poll. Okay. So just take a couple minutes to look through those questions while they're up on the screen. Jot down any notes you want to, and then I'm going to actually walk you through an example of what that should look like in a more generic subject. They're tough questions because we always usually think it's something else outside. Once again, that whole external factor. But getting away from that victim mentality and really taking responsibility for our happiness can make a huge shift in getting what we really want. And we're going to talk about getting what we really want in the next chapter with chapter 3. So let's go through this example that we have. What is an area of your life that is not working well as you would like it to? So in this particular example, it's about health and wellness. And I'm not getting as much exercise as I would like to. And as a result, I'm having difficulty maintaining my ideal body weight of 185 pounds. This one's really good for me because that's on my list this year of getting healthy, getting rid of the extra weight. So this was a really great example, really personal for me. I don't know about all of you. So how are you creating or allowing this to happen? I am staying up too late at night reading or watching television, so I don't feel like getting up early in the morning to exercise before work. I think I will exercise after work, but I'm usually late getting home from work, so it is not happening. So I don't really watch TV, but that is what happens to a lot of people. So they, sorry, Lori, I just saw that. Sorry, I forgot to start the poll. There you go. The poll is started, so if you want to try the poll, it should be there too. I am staying up too late at night reading or watching, so exercise, but you can see that. So there's lots of reasons why when people want to have a new fitness goal, it's exciting for the first week, but then, you know, it's baseball season and I can't get up earlier, or I want to do it after work, but I get caught in traffic. All kinds of things we look for, those are excuses. He'll talk about excuses all the time, right? So what are you doing that is not working that you need to do less of? I'm watching too much television. I'm agreeing to many projects that I don't have enough free time for, which is a big problem for most of us, right? We say yes because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings even when we don't have time for things. We agree to help out at things that we really don't, aren't interested in, don't have time, or they take away from our goals. Now, health is really important, and anything that takes, once you set that goal, anything that takes away from it, really can affect everything else in your life, your energy levels, everything. So But especially women have a really hard time putting themselves first. So that's another thing I really liked about this class. It does talk about, you know, that whole concept of you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to effectively take care of other people. And I love that concept. So what are you currently doing that is working that you need to do more of? It says, I'm delegating more, and that is creating more time for me to get my most important work done. I'm also stretching and doing push-ups when I first get up, and I'm doing a little yoga before I go to bed. So in this case, it's, you know, what am I doing? I'm working in smaller workouts throughout the day. So that's a good example. Break things up. So that goes back to the 10%. So what could I just do 10% more of to get me closer to where I want to be? What are you not doing that you could try on to see if it works? I could make a commitment to meet someone for a fast walk or a run for half an hour, 4 days a week. That way I wouldn't back out because I know I would have someone waiting for me. It would be harder to cop out. I could give myself some kind of reward for achieving my goal. And what will you commit to doing as a result of this exercise? I will go be 1/2 hour. I will go to bed 1/2 hour earlier. I will go over my inbox with my assistant to ensure I can handle things right away and delegate more to her. I will set up appointments to exercise with my wife and my son 4 days a week. When will you do this by? I will complete all these by tomorrow. Write it down. Write down your commitment. So step 8 is so important, and so many people, we make those commitments in our mind. I know I'm guilty of it. I go to bed tomorrow. I'm getting up at 5. I'm going to be at the gym at 5:30 when it opens. I don't get to bed till after 12 because I'm reading or I'm on Facebook or I'm watching TED Talks. And then the alarm goes on at 5. Oh, I'll just sleep until 6, and I'll go after school or after I get done whatever I have to do for the day. And then that pushes all the other plans that I had made about what I was going to do after school get pushed away. So, and I know that I struggle with it. I'm sure many other people do too. So this is a great exercise if you can, pair up with someone. And the point of when you go through this exercise, it's very important that one person asks the question and the other person responds, and the person asking the question shouldn't give advice. They're not going to chastise you for your answer because there are beliefs, or try to help you come up with solutions, because it's very important that you come up with these ideas for yourself, because that way you can commit to them and you are only suggesting what you know you're capable of. You are the one that knows you the best. So if you do, like I said, decide to do these with a partner, those are things to keep in mind. The partner needs to just ask the questions and allow you to respond to them, and then write everything down. And then you can in turn do it for them as well. So, and then honestly, there's different categories. So this is just choosing one. You're going to see a multitude of categories that you're going to be able to do this with to kind of start making shifts in your life. All right. So deciding what you want. And I think this was one of the biggest things that got me when I originally read the Success Principles was this is where the law of attraction comes in, and knowing what you want and stating what you want, and stating it in such a way as it exists. That's where manifestation comes in, but you really have to know. So I'll give you a personal example. Relationships, right? So I want to be married, or I want to be in a committed relationship. But then when I really started thinking about it, I thought, yeah, I do actually like my freedom. I don't know that. So until I really make up my mind in that area, it's really hard for me to manifest that or commit to that or actually have a relationship that is of the type of marriage or a long-term commitment or anything like that, when I think, oh, well, I still would like to meet lots of people, or I'm not even sure what I'm looking for in a long-term mate. So those are different ways that when you send those mixed messages to the universe, it's very hard for the universe to give you what you want. So deciding what you want is one of the first steps in this entire process. The next section is working on that whole second success principle of deciding what you want. So Jack actually uses 7 categories in your life for you to decide what you want to create or experience in each of those categories. And think about it in terms of the next 12 months as a time frame. There's another exercise in the book about a list of 100 things to do over the course of your life. But let's try to compartmentalize it to the next 12 months. And that way you can start seeing some faster results. So if you were sitting here a year from now, what would you like to have happened in each of these categories? The suggestion is that you come up with 3 in each category. And these are the categories. You can write them down. I'm actually also going to upload into the Facebook group a chart. I made a chart with these so you can kind of track them. But first is financial. So what are your financial goals? Do you have how much you would like to make this year? How much you would like to invest this year? Next is career. So if you're looking to make a career change, or you're trying to go to the next level, think about in terms of those things. Recreation and free time. What are your goals? Do you want to travel? Do you want to spend more time with your children? Do you want to spend more time with your parents? Do you want more time to volunteer? We're going to talk about community service, contribution, legacy a little later too. But, do you just want time to do meetups? Do you want time to walk the dog? Do you want time to have a dog? Physical fitness and health is very important. And this doesn't necessarily just have to be a gym membership. This can be meditation. This can be alternative therapies. This can be, I'm going to go finally see a specialist for my skin. I'm going to seek out acupuncture. I'm going to seek out massage. I'm going to make sure I get a massage once every 3 months. So all kinds of different things. That's just to give you some, but set some goals, at least 3 in each of these areas. Relationships with family and friends, and then personal goals about learning, spiritual growth, personal achievements. And last but not least is community service, contribution, legacy. How do you want people to remember you? And how do you want to give back? Because the more you give, the more it comes back to you. That's, once again, part of the laws of attraction piece that Jack is a big proponent of. So there's a vision exercise on page 32 and 33 of the Success Principles that talks more specifically about each of these areas. And like I said, I'll be uploading a document that you can use, that you can print and use in order to create that chart for yourself. Okay, and there's the instructions again. Create a table. If you're in the group, I'll upload a file and list the 3 things that you want for each of these areas. So that's the first step. Once again, it's to write it down. Put pen to paper and really look at what that looks like. Because things do look, I don't know about you, but I know things always look a little bit different when I write them down. And we are through for tonight. So that's just chapters 1 and 3. But you do have a little bit of homework. So your homework first is to take action on the things that you wrote down that you're going to do as a result of doing your exercises today. You're going to be prepared to report on one of them at our next session. So make sure that you go through and wrote down at least one of the things. Take your goals and begin to think about making them specific and how much and by when. Time is very important. Remember, we talked about putting everything into a 12-month frame for these exercises, and think about how you would quantify the goal. So your homework is to read Chapter 7, Unleash the Power of Goal Setting, Chapter 10, Release the Brakes, and Chapter 11, See What You Want, Get What You See. If you did not read Chapters 1 and 3, I would suggest going back and reading them tonight. Lori, were you able to see the poll? I did activate it. I realized I didn't start it, but I did activate it, so you should be able to see it. And just a reminder, our next class will be Monday, March 23rd at 8 p.m. And I hope to see you all again then. There will be a replay. You'll receive an email with a replay, so you can go back through this if you wanted to review it or see any of the slides from tonight. And I thank you all for joining me. And is there any questions now? If you have a question about anything we did tonight, you can put that in the chat box now before I go. Anything, Lori? No? And I will see you all next week. Thank you so much and have a great night. Bye-bye.